Alright, let's make a guitar. You think this will be enough? Alright, so where I live, let's call it near the ocean, everybody loves this boardwalk. It's kind of a touristy thing to do when you come to town. Go check out the boardwalk. Now I know what you might be envisioning, but it's not a New Jersey style boardwalk. There's no arcades or food. You're not going to be under the boardwalk out of the sun, under the boardwalk having fun. It's not Bruce Springsteen feeling up Sandy on the 4th of July under the boardwalk. Not that type of place. So it's actually a wooden pathway that takes you over a small river, over the marshes, to the dunes, to the beach far away. It's a nice beach though. And at high tide, the kids will jump off the bridge into the small river. But it's a marsh, so you smell like a butthole afterwards. But anyway, so being so close to the ocean, it's susceptible to winter storms, of course. The last time was a couple years ago. It got knocked out, sent planks and decking all across town. But the town gathered up all the pieces, and there was an option the last time they had them decked for people to have their name engraved, or their business name, family name. And a lot of those people that had those, they wanted their planks back because, you know, it makes a nice art piece, hang over the mantle or something. Piece of town history. And they also had quite a few piles of blank boards. And I went down and perused through. I pulled out these two pieces. They both looked pretty straight. Minimal scarring. I mean, they were all, every single one of them was beat up. But for the two of them, I think I can get one guitar body out of it. And I think it would make a nice piece for somebody locally. And give us something fun to do in the meantime. So, let's go over what I got. Alright, my two planks measure 5 feet long. I got 4 screw holes there, 4 screw holes there, 4 screw holes there. My second plank here still has the heads in them. I'll have to get those out before I start cutting. Because if those don't dull my blades down, the fact that this is an ironwood is going to dull my blades down. Has anybody ever made a guitar body out of ironwood? I don't know. I think this is an Ipe. I was reading on the town stuff, and seems to be Ipe wood is what they were using, and that would make sense. I'm also seeing that these were probably put out last 2013, so these are probably about 9 years old out there. 1991 was one repair, 2013 was the second one, and then the most recent, I'll have to look that up. But anyway, that's what I'm dealing with, and I'll show you how I'm going to cut these to try to get one body out of it. You may be asking yourself, how are you going to turn those two planks into a guitar? Well, I'm not that skilled of a luthier. I'm not even a luthier. And I'm not a luthier. So I got one of these DIY kits, and it's a Tele shape. And there's our body. Nice. Don't need that though. Oh crap, maybe I do. Alright, so I got a body. I got a neck. And it's got the paddle shape, so I can do whatever I want with that. And then my bag of parts. So it's got just the regular Tele setup right there. Look at that neck, that's really nice. This is the first time I'm pulling this out. Came in the mail the other day. It was 85 bucks through the jungle site. And I got matching. Nice. So I was saying I'm not going to need this because I'm going to use this, and that's still wider than what I have. So what's going to be my plan here? If I line up these two, line up those screw holes, let's say right there. Let's mark this out with some tape. I can kind of get a better visual. Figured out 17.5 is my magic number here. I'm going to mark these out so I can kind of get a better idea of where to cut. Does anybody know how to get screw heads out of Ipe wood? So I keep going back and forth on which way to cut this. You know, they always say go with your first instinct, and I think that's the way I'm going to go. It doesn't give me much room for clamps. I think it'll give me enough. But it's going to be tight. It's going to be tight. Basically, I need 2 layers of planking to equal what the body's going to be. After this stuff is planed down, will be more closer to the edge, to the size of the body. And I don't want to just put my planks together one over another, you know, you want overlap. So my plan here, I think, is to just where these 2 pieces are sitting will be the top. I think this center section out of here, and if I turn it and put it right there, the screw hole will fall right in my pickup hole. That'll be cool. And then on the back side I'll use a full piece and 2 half pieces, and that'll give me some good overlap there. So I think that's definitely what I'm going to do. I'm going to mark my pieces here because they do have to go through the planer. I'm going to kind of be flipping them around a little bit. So let's call this the top. And I'm going to call it left. And can I write upside down? T-O Todd. And I want that up and right. Okay. So that's my top left, my top right. And then it really doesn't matter about these. I really don't care about where they go. We'll figure out where they go. Like this one's got a slice, so I kind of want that on the outside. And it's got a little crack right here. So, yeah, I got to work on extracting these. And I don't want to cut them down yet to the 17-inch. That's why I marked on the side what parts I want. I should also put that this is, I'm going to put an X down here so I know that's my scrap end. Alright. Yeah, that'll work. So I'm going to work on extracting the screws because these are going to be hell on my planer as it is. But I think with screw heads, I think I'm screwed. So I got to get those out. I'm just going to try to plane them down so they're even. And that's why I don't want to cut them apart yet. I want them all even. So, see if I can get those out. I think I found the solution. It's probably the best thing I can possibly do.
I got this first one out. I used a plug cutter and went around the screw from the back side, and when it kind of got loose I was able to pop it out. So it's got the same sunken heads that these do, and I'll probably just glue dowel in there to make sure that I don't have any voids. But see how the second one goes. It's already starting to burn this bit out. That's just burning. Alright, that was tough, but I got all 6 screw heads out. Also found a bird feather, probably a seagull feather. I don't know if that's good luck or not. Drilling into this, I can smell the ocean. I completely tore apart my plug cutter, the smallest one I had. That's okay, it was probably a job lot. My largest plug cutter, I was trying to cut some plugs out for the back side because I made some pretty big holes with the plug cutter to get the screw heads out, and that thing, it took me about 2 minutes to get about a ½ inch, and it was just burning up, so that's no good. So I think I'm going to maybe mix up some 2-part epoxy and fill all these, and I'll let that dry, and then I'm going to plane these down so they're at an even thickness, and probably square up the edges on the table saw the best I can, and I can start gluing it together in the configuration I want. But it's getting late. If you ever ran a planer, you know you need ear protection, and I'd wake up everybody in the house if I ran a planer at this time of night. So going to bed, see you in the morning. Alright, it's the next day, and I didn't get much done on it today, and I got a couple busy days coming up, so I figure the best use of my time today would be to fill these holes. That way when I plane it, everything gets planed together. My ultimate color on this is to be the driftwood gray, so I kind of mixed up some gray 2-part epoxy resin here. And we're just going to fill the holes. I put some tape on the bottom, some electrical tape for the vinyl so that it should peel off easy. And then some blue wide tape there to kind of hold it down. I'm just going to let those crown over like that. That's fine. It'll all get planed plainly. Well, my resin has had time to set up. I had a little drop out at this end, but that's okay. It's my scrap end. Coming over to the other side, they all came out smooth where I had taped them up. I'm not sure where the resin even went to in some of these. Maybe it flowed inside. I'm not sure. What I want to do next is I want to plane these boards, but before I do that I want to make sure that these are all smoothed out so it doesn't mess up with my planing. So I'm going to sand these down, then plane the 2 boards. before I clean up, I want to take a cupful of the shavings from this, just in case I need it for something, like filling or something. I'll have it. So I got these two boards planed to roughly the same thickness, and before I chopped them up into my 17.5-inch lengths, I wanted to show you this. Somebody actually had their name carved in this one. You couldn't really tell from the outside. There's an ampersand here, an O-L-I-V-I-A, and Olivia. I cannot tell what the first name is. I've taken some pictures. I'm going to see if I can adjust the lighting and see if I can bring it out in any way. But anyway, and Olivia, your piece of board is going to be in a guitar. Alright, so I'm going to chop these down to my 17.5-inch lengths. And then I'm going to rip the sides down in my scary ass table saw. I've taken my markings that I had here on the side and transferred them to the end. So I'll know that that's my scrap end down here. So yeah, I'm going to chop them up, square them up, and then I can start gluing them together. Alright, I got my wood all milled down here, ready to be put into two little flat panels. This will be my top panel, and that'll be my bottom panel. I'm going to glue them together, but I want to use some biscuits. I'm going to give a little extra strength. And the last time I used biscuits, I accidentally put them where they would be seen when they were cut. So I think on this one I'm going to try to creatively hide them down in here where the body is going to be. So I'm going to cut some biscuits and start gluing it up. And then once I have these two panels glued together, then I can glue them one on top of the other. And should have my body blank. Alright, I'm going to use some Type Bond 3 Ultimate Wood Glue to get these edges and the biscuits. And I'm going to brush it on just so I know I have full coverage. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to let that sit for a couple hours. Let the glue set up, and then I'll do the same thing to the bottom. And then once I have the two pieces, I think I'm just going to sand a little bit to make sure that it's nice and smooth. I'll put the two pieces together and then clamp them. So, alright, that's where I am. Alright, these two boards came together nicely. I was hoping to plane them again, but my planer is, I think, 13 inches, so that wouldn't do good. So I ended up sanding them, and I really struggled. I had a 60 grit on there on my random orbital, and it was like really trying to just even up these edges, so when I sandwich them together, it's a nice flat surface. And I got it pretty good, but that was about 20 minutes of work with a 60 grit. And then I had tried to cut off the two extra legs that were on the top portion with the skill saw, and I was really struggling with that. I had to go back to the chop saw to get them off. So I'm really curious of how this is going to carve. It's going to have to be a slow one. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to sandwich these two together, clamp them up for about a day or two, and then I can put it into the machine and start cutting a body out of it. So I'm going to use a little foam brush here. I want to make sure I'm getting everything perfectly coated. I got marks here at the end of my centers so I know where to line it up. And I'm going to do both sides of this for full coverage. And for glue, I'm using the Type Bond 3. It's the strongest one that I got here, so makes good contact, good adhesion. Should keep it together for its lifetime. I don't think this wood's moving anywhere anyway. I can't imagine what the expansion contraction rates on this is. I think it's kind of sealed where it is, and I don't know if it's ever going to move. It's almost petrified. Well, that came together nicely. That's every clamp I have of worth here in the shop. And I think that got every portion of it. I'm going to probably let it sit for a day or two. Not really concerned about clamp marks or anything like that. Once I get this in the machine, I think I'm going to mill like a millimeter off the top of it. Just the entire top. And that way I'll have a nice flat surface to start from there. And then I can start carving it. But we're getting there. Alright, there's our body block, all 14 pounds of it. I don't know if I mentioned when I first started, each of those planks weighed 9.3 pounds for a total of 18.6. Once I chopped it down, planed it, and glued it together and all that stuff, I end up with 14 pounds. It measures 17.5 by 13. Very small. I have to be very conservative with how I cut it. As you saw, I don't have the best tools. I have really old stuff, so this isn't exactly perfect, you know. Wish I had Norm Abrams' workshop, but I don't. So I have to make do with what I have. That being said, it's not entirely flat and level on each side. There's a little bit of a wobble when you put it on a flat surface. I want to get that out of there. You know, I couldn't send it through my planer because it's too wide, so I'm going to do it this way. I have L brackets holding it in the front because I don't want clamps coming up over the top because I don't want them in the way. I have these cam clamps that I made a while ago, and I have those holding the back end with some pressure. It's in there nice and solid. I'm going to run a 1/2 inch flat bit over the whole thing. I'm going to go about a 0.5 millimeter at a time. I have it set to go really, really slow. It's telling me about a 2-hour carve, but that's just my starting settings. I can boost it up a little bit quicker once I start seeing how this is cutting. It cut beautiful on the chop saw, it cut beautiful on the table saw, but my skill saw and drilling it is extremely hard, so I don't know how these bits are going to react. But we're going to try it. Once I get this milled flat, give it a little sanding, flip it over, I'll do the same thing on the other side, and then I'm good to start carving my body out. So that's what we're doing now. Next time you see it, it'll be milled flat and ready to go. So now that I have that body block all milled and ready to be carved, I've also been doing some design. And I did a printout here just to make sure that everything was lining up where I wanted it. And I wasted a ton of magenta ink. I had it in magenta on my screen so I could see it, and neglected to put it into an outline, so I wasted a ton of ink. But that's okay. You get to see what it looks like. The body itself, you know, I've always saw a Telecaster as kind of bulky at this end and thin at this end. And it just always kind of looked off to me. So on this one, to reduce weight, and because I don't really have that big of a body block anyway, I slimmed this down by about 5/8 on each side. So the body's going to be a little bit more slimmer. It's almost got a Strat look to it. And the headstock itself, I thickened up a little bit. I'm going to go with the traditional Tele headstock. I also looked at a ton of different pictures to see where they did decal placement. You know, there's so many different places that they do it with a Telecaster. And I really like this one where they kind of had it coming up at this angle. So that's going to be my decal. It's going to say Supernaut Boardwalk Caster by Promo Gnome. So I'm going to have to carve that. Probably going to do maybe a couple coats of clear, then my decal, and then final. And as far as the body, I'm going to be carving the neck pocket first. I think that's the most important. When I get the neck pocket where I want it, and this fits in there pretty good, then I can carve out my pickups and my electronics cavity here. There's also 4 holes down here that hold the bridge down, but I wasn't sure that I had them exactly lined up. So I'm probably going to do these by hand once it's all done. So moving over to the X-Carve. So over here on the X-Carve, I have my body block set up. Really glad I left these wings on here because that gives me a place to clamp to, and the head of the router isn't going to be anywhere near them. As you can see, I probably have a 1/4 inch on each side, so that's kind of why I slimmed it too, to reduce weight and to make sure that I'm in that center there. First thing I'm going to do is carve out that body block. Once I get the neck fitting in there really good, then I'm going to carve out these, and then I can carve the outside of it. Another thing I wanted to show you, when I was planing those planks, I had kept a bunch of the wood shavings, and I had a slight gap here and I had a slight gap on the back. So filled them in with some wood glue and pressed in all the shavings that I could. And it's nice and smooth now, and that'll sand up nice when I get it carved out. So that's what I'm going to do next. It makes me very nervous because this is the only block I have, and if I screw it up, that's the end of the project and you never see this video. Alright, so I got a 1/2 inch bit loaded up in here. I'm going to send it out to do the neck pocket. The neck pocket itself needs to be 18 millimeters deep. I'm going to kind of sneak up on this. I want to go to 17 and just check it and make sure. This isn't totally accurate to the, you know, to the thousandths. It's going to get close, and I have to be here to control it to make sure that it's not going to go too deep. Too deep is a bad thing. Not deep enough, I can still go deeper. So once that neck pocket is done, I'll feel a lot better about carving the rest of this stuff. That neck pocket's looking really good. Perfect depth, perfect width, a little bit of wiggle room in there, so when I set the neck, after I clear coat it, of course, it'll add a little bit to it, but when I set the neck, it should have plenty of room in there for me to move it about, but not look like there's big gaps. So with the neck pocket done, I'm feeling better about carving the rest of this. Next up is the pickup cavities and the electronics cavity. And then I can cut the whole thing out and do some sanding. Alright, the pickup holes in the electronic cavity are all set. I'm going to cut it out now. So no going back from this one. All in all, that didn't come out that bad. It got a little scary hit down towards the end, like the last half inch, right down around this curve. The bit did not like it at all. So I got the smokies going on. But I made it through, and I just got to pull it out of here. I had left it with tabs, so I'm going to have to individually cut those out to remove it from the scrap. So let's do that. Alright, I made some progress. I wanted to show you where I'm at. Let's start with the neck. I got my headstock carved. Looks really good. Got it sanded down lightly. The frets are masked off, so I'm ready to clear coat that. I'll probably do 2 light coats of clear. I'll put my decal on and then maybe 1 or 2 after that. The body looks awesome. It's all sanded down. I got all my holes drilled for the input jack and my electronics, and it's ready for finishing. I told you earlier that I wanted to do like a driftwood look on it, and you can buy stuff at the hardware store that does like an aging. You could probably also get some gray stain, but I found that a good way to age wood is with vinegar and steel wool. And what you do is you take the steel wool, you put it in the vinegar, and you let it sit for, I think, 8 to 24 hours or something, until this is dissolved. And then you wipe it on the surface, and it turns it gray, like driftwood. So, I want to do that on my body block that I cut that out of. And I had made a batch of this stuff last year. I don't think it holds its potency. And I had done a little here. I don't know if you can see the difference of the wood. So it did grade a little bit, but when I used that stuff before, it really graded up. But then again, I don't think I used it on Ipe wood. So we'll see how a fresh batch of vinegar and steel wool ages it. But I'll do it on this first to make sure I like the look of it, because I'm really liking this grain here. This grain is just beautiful on the top here. I mean, I almost want to leave it just like this, but I think it needs to be sealed and protected in some way. It's got just some cool stuff. There's like this little knot going on up here. The graining through here is really nice too. And I'll show you the back. I got those holes there where I filled in. And another thing I was noticing is I have 3 different bodies here. This is the body that came with the kit. This is a body from a modern Telecaster, modern player Telecaster, that we did a rebody on. We turned that into a thin line. But what I wanted to show you was the different sounds that these make, and I don't know what that's going to do to this. So if you know what this is going to do to that, let me know in the comments. But I'll take the hammer and I'm just gonna crack it down here where you won't ever see it. And that's like, you know, wide knock. This is made of pine, I believe. So that's a different knock. It's a little higher. Maybe a little lower. But then this one, this sounds like one of those percussion wood blocks. It's like real high tone. So I don't know what that's going to do for sustain, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. So next up is finishing. We'll do the white vinegar here and we'll see how that works. I'm just going to stuff this whole thing in there. I remember reading online that if you use finer steel wool, it dissolves quicker. And that's good because I want to be able to use this tomorrow. Another thing, don't put the cap on, let it sit, because this creates a little bit of a gas and that could pop off and make a mess on you. I don't think it's dangerous. Is it dangerous? Anybody know if it's dangerous? We'll see. But that's definitely overfilling that. I don't want it that full. This is the batch I made last year. It's got kind of a red tint to it. And I stained a bunch of stuff with this, and you know, I only used that much. Get rid of some of that. Give me some room up top. Alright, we'll let that sit and dissolve, and we'll see what that looks like. Alright, I'm still farting around with the body, but I did get the neck clear coated. Looks amazing. Start with getting this nut in here. Make sure I got all tape residue off. I can still kind of feel it in a couple spots. I put that stuff on thick. Just want to make sure my crowns are facing up on the tuner tops here. Really like how the K and the T center off in between this tuner here. That's kind of good layout. Pat myself in the back. I'll wait on the string trees until we string it up, but that is pretty good for now. Nice. Alright, let's move on to the body. In the beginning I told you I wanted it to have like a driftwoody look, and the way that I make driftwood is by mixing vinegar and steel wool. And the steel wool dissolves, you wipe the vinegar mixture on there and it'll turn gray for you. It's a pretty quick reaction too, we'll watch it. So I had my scrap piece here. I did a couple gray areas, couple bare areas. I did some teak oil, I did some polyurethane. I really like the gray, but as soon as you add a teak oil or a polyurethane or a clear coat, as in right down here, it just turns darker, and that's not really what I wanted. So on the flip side, I had grayed this out with my vinegar mixture. And then on top of that, I wiped 2 coats of this Aqua-Coat, which this stuff's like, it's a water-based wood grain filler. And fills wood pores to create a glass smooth finish. So, and it does. It feels so smooth. Like you can go with this right here, like that. It didn't really raise the grain as much as the teak oil or the polyurethane did, but did a really good job. And it's water-based. There's no odor to it. It actually smells like paste. Remember the paste you had at school? Did you eat the paste? I mean, I will admit, I tried the paste, but I wasn't like a paste, before snack type guy. So I think that is going to be a really good look. We're going to do the vinegar wash on this. We'll let that dry off. We'll do 2 coats of the Aqua-Coat, and you just rub that on with a rag. Get all my swirl marks out, and I think it should be ready for assembly. See if this works. We'll try to get some gray going. Driftwood gray. I'm sure my camera's going to make it look a lot brighter than it really is. No method to this, you just wipe it on. Let it soak in and dry. In fact, we're going to speed my camera up and we're going to see how long this takes to gray up. Alright, I might have lost a whole bunch of footage here with a crashed SD card. I'm trying to recover it, but I don't know if this comes across on camera, but this went from that color to that color. It's more of a driftwood look. So I'm going to do the front again. I'm going to do the front, well, for the first time. So I really want to get back to the light gray that was on the planks when it came in. But I've tried everything I can to try to get a natural gray. I think I'm going to have to bite the bullet and use some gray stain. So that's what you see right here on my test. So I think that's going to be the best bet. I'm going to I thinned out the stain that I have, the gray stain. And so it's a little less paint-like. And I'm just going to keep rubbing it in until I get a good look. And I can always sand it back, I guess, if I don't like it. Alright, that looks way more in keeping with what the planks looked like when they first came in. And the problem is when I have to seal this, it gets darker. But the Aqua-Coat, I think, will allow that light gray to come through. I might do a thinner batch and another coat, but I'll see how this goes. So that's had time to dry. One coat wasn't quite enough, so I went with the second coat. It seems a little bit too much, so I'm going to knock it down a little bit with some sandpaper or some steel wool, and then I can start putting some Aqua-Coat on here. This is a clear wood grain filler, and it should smooth it all out. So that's what I'm doing next. So after much procrastination, I finally got this guitar body finished. I always hit a roadblock right around finishing painting time. For one, I hate sanding, and two, I'm not confident in my finished jobs. I always end up having to do them 2 or 3 times. But this was just one time through. So once I got the color down with that gray, then I had told you how I went over it with the Aqua-Coat grain filler, and that makes it really smooth. I almost wanted to leave it there, But I wanted a water-based product to go over it, and I didn't really want to do polyurethane necessarily, so I found that Aqua-Coat has an Aqua-Thane, which is like a water-based urethane. It's got no smell to it. It reminds me of Mod Podge, and it said it's ready to spray, so I put it in my gun, and I went low pressure, a whole bunch of coats. And I probably didn't need to wear a mask, but I wore one anyway. There was like no odor here at all, and that was nice. I found being kind of far away with it was really helped me. So this is something I'm definitely going to use again in the future. Like I said, this is like smooth as glass, but it's got a satiny look. So I also have the cavity filled here with the copper, so I think I'm ready to start assembly here. First thing I want to do is this pickup up here, and I was noticing it has a very long yellow wire, and my hole's kind of high here. I didn't want to see a yellow wire there, so I got some heat shrink on here. Let's see if we can shrink that up, and yeah, that'll kind of hide it a little bit. That cool. So I'm assuming the switch is going to go forward like this. They didn't give me a wiring diagram, so I'm going to have to try to figure this stuff out. And so I'm going to have to probably look up a Telecaster diagram, and what's that, a single coil and whatever this thing is called. Lipstick? Is that a lipstick? Alright, let's see how easy it is to get this through. Alright, so the ears on this pickup are meant to be held in by the pick guard, but since I don't have a pick guard, they're going to be held in by the springs and some black screws into the wood behind. So I want the screw to be able to go through this freely. They also gave me silver blunt end screws, or chrome. I'm going to change them out here for these black ones. Alright, I got the second one in. It's looking pretty good. I have to look up a wiring diagram, make sure I'm doing this right. I don't want to keep doing it over and over. You know, that one's my ground, that one's my jack, and I'm thinking these will go to switches. So let's look that up, see how that goes. So this one did not come with a wiring diagram, of course. They very rarely do. I did get one recently on the Jungle site that had a picture of the wiring diagram in with the other photos of what the guitar was going to look like, but no such luck on this one. This one's made by Zeff. It's like Jeff with a Z. But I couldn't find anything on them or this wiring. So if you're unfamiliar with how a guitar is wired, or how to solder, or how to read a schematic, and you got this kit for Christmas, and you got to this point, this is probably the point where you'd want to quit or pull your hair out, because it proved pretty difficult to figure out. But I figured it out, and I'm going to make you a little schematic and show you how to get through this if you're in the same situation with a Zeff guitar. So you should always keep some test leads in your guitar repair kit. They're like little wires with roach clips on the end of them, and they come in handy for a variety of reasons. And in this case, we can use them to run out our pickups before we solder, and that's always very helpful. So I'll run you through what I have here. It might look like spaghetti, but it actually makes a lot of sense. So I have an instrument cable plugged into my amp. You have two wires that would come off of your volume pot, and in this case it's a yellow and a black one, and those would go to your jack. So down here on the jack end we have the black one is connected to our jack, it is the ground, and the yellow one is connected to the tip and just the tip. Coming up here to where the pickups are plugged in, the yellow one represents our neck, the red one represents our bridge, and the black is the ground. And then if we move over here to the switch, you're going to have the neck pickup soldered to lug 2. You're going to have a jumper from lug 2 to lug 3. You're going to have another jumper from lug 4 to lug 5. You're going to have another jumper from lug 6 to lug 7. And then on lug 7, you're going to solder in the bridge pickup. So with that spaghetti all connected, I'm going to turn on my amp and I'll show you how this works. So I got it in the bridge position. Yep. No neck. Yep. Over to the neck. Yep. No bridge. And then in the middle I should have both. So with that all figured out, I can draw my own diagram and I can post it here for you in case you're stuck in this position with a Zeff guitar and you don't know how to get through it. Start out putting the jumpers onto the switch. I've already got my 6 lugs there, a little bit of solder on them. I'm going to start with the middle one, the blue one, and I'm going to make it blue because it's coming off of the blue wire on the volume pot, and I kind of want to keep stuff color coded there. The ground here we connect right to the jacket of the switch. So with the switch all wired up, proved to be quite fiddly with my big fat fingers, but I made do. That leaves us with 3 remaining wires, 2 black wires and a yellow wire. One of the black wires and the yellow wire gets sent out to the jack, and the remaining black wire gets sent up to the bridge for a ground. But I don't want to do that yet. I want to actually mount this where it needs to go, and I still need to drill holes for that. So I'm going to mark out with some tape here, and that way I'll be able to mark about where the center is, and I can drill my holes for that. I got that kind of all wired. I'm going to do the jack next, and then we're going to test it, make sure it works before I screw it down. Alright, let's test this out, see if all that worked. Alright, we should have both pickups. Yep. Should have neck. Should have bridge, no neck. Perfect. So do some readjusting to the ground there. So I got to kind of spread out with all its little frays. I'm going to tape it up to the inside here so that it doesn't want to slip out. It should fit under there really nice, hopefully. There we go. Alright, put these 4 down. Looks like all that's left on the body is the strap buttons. So I'm going to bring in this Fender Modern Player because I really liked where these were set up. And we're going to try to get them in the same spot or close enough. Kind of like here for that one. Near for that one. Alright, with the body completely assembled, I can put the neck on. Coming into the home stretch here. Nice. Looking like a guitar now. I'm going to go with some boomers as always. 1046. So it came with the old-fashioned string trees, but these feel really cheap. So I dug around in my stash and I had these roller top kind. And I think these will work just fine. I'm going to use the same holes. Strings and the string trees on, I could start raising my bridge to my correct height here. Wire mill. it's Amazing Jay approved. He really made it sing. You know, it's got its pros, it's got its cons, it's got its flaws and blemishes. But this is only the second guitar that I've built using this method, getting a kit and then changing out the body. Probably the fourth kit I've built overall. So considering that, I'm really happy with how the guitar came out. So let me give you some stats here. We started out with the two planks at 18.6 pounds. They were 9.3 pounds each. Once we cut it and glued it into a body block there, we were at 14 pounds. When we milled the top and the bottom, we ended up at 13.6 pounds. When we cut the body out, the body ended up weighing 8.4 pounds. And when I sanded, rounded the corners, and did the finishing, it ended up being 8 pounds. And the total weight of the entire guitar now is 9.2 pounds. So it is heavy. It's very bottom-ended, but when you're holding it with a strap, it feels balanced. So as far as cost, the two planks ran me $50. The kit itself cost me $84, so that's $134. The strings, maybe call that another $6, so I'm at what, $140? The nut and the string trees came from my stash. I'm not going to count those. If I did, that's another $25. So I'm into the guitar for about $150. Let's call it that. So with that in mind, I splurged a little bit and got a padded leather strap to deal with the weight. It's really nice. It kind of matches the guitar itself. It's got this kind of distressed brown. But wait, there's more. I couldn't just stop with the strap. I spent another $80 on an inexpensive hard shell case, and you kind of get what you pay for. It's got foam in it and it's hard, so I think this will keep it better protected than the gig bag, and you know, gives a little bit more value to whoever's going to get it in the future. So what is the future of this guitar? You know, I'm not really sure. My original intent was to get a video out of it, of me making something out of nothing, and I got that. Some people who see this guitar say they would never let it leave their sight. Some people who see it say sell it for as much as you can possibly get for it, because that's a beautiful piece. But you know, I'm not all about money, so there's some charity things coming up. I might be able to try to get it into something like that. I think this would raise a lot of money for the town if it was in the right auction with the right advertising. Keeping it, it's got its pros and cons, like I said. One of the cons is the weight. It's definitely a sit-down guitar. I don't know how many songs you'd make it through standing up, even with a padded strap. It's well balanced, but it's just heavy. Secondly, the neck is super fat. I'm more like a thin, flatter neck, and this thing is like a baseball bat. But I know people appreciate that, and if you're the type that likes that, then this is the guitar for you. Thirdly, it's a Telecaster shape. I'm not really into Telecasters. I built this just to appeal to a wider audience, and I've never really built or had a Telecaster, so. The upside to it is tone, tone, tone. Super loud, not even plugged into anything, but the harmonics you get out of it are really good too. You know, they just kind of ring on forever. That's awesome. And this rustic finish came out really, really good. I'm very happy with that aqua coat. I'm going to be using a lot more of that in the future. It made it smooth as glass but hard as a rock, so I really think that's going to stand the test of time. Well, I hope you enjoyed this project. Hope you can take some inspiration to do a project of your own. Don't be afraid of a DIY guitar kit. They're relatively inexpensive nowadays, and what do you got to lose? A couple hours of your time? You'll have fun doing it. And if you made it this far in the video and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, that would be much appreciated. I try to be here every Friday with a guitar repair video or a woodworking video or a toy fix-up video, and every subscriber helps, so if you can do that for me, it'd be much appreciated. But I want to thank you for watching. Give me a thumbs up for filming it for you, and we'll talk again soon.